Hey, this is a Hakawati production. Hi guys, welcome to the show. My next guest co-founded a company that makes protein out of fly larvae for animal feed. They recently completed a Series A round of funding and raised over $11 million to scale up production at their Tunisian factory. It's called nextProtein, and it's at the forefront of a fast-growing industry, insect-based food. Joining us from the company's headquarters in Paris, please welcome Syrine Chaalala. Hi, Syrine. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So, first of all, I'm really curious. When you first meet people, like in a casual setting, how do you tell people what you do? Do you say, like, I'm a fly breeder?
I basically tell them that I'm a farmer. I'm a farmer, and that's what it is. I'm a farmer, and I breed insects.
That's so cool. So, and do people get grossed out when you tell them that? Do they make faces?
They do. People really, they don't understand what it is that I'm doing, why it is that I'm doing it. And yeah, they do get grossed out. But then when I start explaining to them how natural it is, it just all makes sense to everyone.
Yeah, it's funny though how people get so grossed out by insects, and it's so weird because they're kind of cool and they're so small and people are just like terrified of tiny little flies. It's really weird phenomenon. So your company, nextProtein, produces protein using only the black soldier fly, the larva of that fly, which is basically, from what I understand, the immature stage of the fly's growth before it becomes an actual fly, kind of like a caterpillar for the butterfly. Is that accurate?
Sort of, but yes, that is the part that we use to make the protein. But also we have another product, which is an oil also used for animal feed.
Is that made from a different stage of the fly's life?
No, that's the amazing thing about our insect is that there's nothing that is wasted. We use the entire larva to produce all of our products. And then we, on top of that, we have a fertilizer, which is, made of the insect frass. And so in our processing cycle, there is nothing that is wasted. Everything is reused.
What's insect frass?
Basically, they're dejections. Is that a word? They're poop.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've never heard it put that way. It's very elegant. Dejections. I'm going to the bathroom to deject. So, yes.
I think it's a Latin word.
Okay. Thank you. I'm one word smarter today. So you do produce like oil that I guess is used also in food products for animal feed and fertilizer. But it's really the animal feed that's kind of getting everyone's attention, I guess, because it's the most kind of direct translation of the insect into, another creature's stomach. So what kind of animals are eating this? Who are your customers for this fly larva protein?
Right. So to give you just a bit of an overview, today, the animal feed market, whether it is to feed the, fish or the poultry or the pigs, what's used as a source of protein, which is basically, 50% of the final product that is given to the animals, is 50% of it is protein. And usually it's either, fish meal or soya bean meal. Okay. And those two things, we know we're all much more aware of what's going on around the world with the resources depleting. And so, if you're feeding fish with fish meal, it means that, you're the wild fish that you're catching from the oceans is what you're using to feed them. And most of actually the fish that is caught in the oceans is used to feed these fish. So what we're proposing here is an alternative to that because number one, we know the resources are depleting, but also we also know that fish naturally eat insects. And so if you're giving insects to these fish, they're much healthier. And at the end of the day, with a much healthier animal, then you have to use less, antibiotics, et cetera. And at the end of the food chain, us, the consumer, the final consumer, then we're eating just a healthier animal. So today, the markets that are open to using insect protein are the aquaculture market in the EU. And then, hopefully in the next few months, we're going to be able to use our products in poultry and pigs. And those are much, much bigger markets.
So is it cost effective for the fish farmers to use this as opposed to buying the fish feed or whatever it's called?
Fish meal, yeah.
Fish meal.
Right. Well, as a resource becomes more scarce, then automatically the prices go up, right? So the number one, the cost of production is our biggest challenge, whether for us as Next Protein, but also for all of the actors in our industry, because at the end of the day, what we're trying to counter or offer an alternative to is a commodity. In commodities, we talk about very large quantities, and that's what we're trying to kind of complete. So if that's the challenge with it, because it's something that's new, and so nobody's ever done it. So the business model, the initial business model, is really something that you have to base yourself to work on to ensure that cost effectiveness and cost competitiveness. Because with anything new that you introduce into a market, at the end of the day, if it's not cost effective, then it's not going to have the impact that you're wanting it to have.
Yeah, and I guess with time, usually the prices of things like this will decrease as you increase production, right?
Exactly. Yeah. As you increase production, as you improve the production techniques and optimize them, because again, since this is a new industry, we're talking about an industry starting from scratch, and that means that on the market, it's not like there were insect processing machines or anything like that. Nothing existed on the market, so we really had to start from developing these machines in a cost-effective manner.
So we know that eventually it'll probably be cost effective, or it is becoming cost effective, but we also know that demand for farmed fish is growing, obviously, which is one of the main, attractive factors of this as we go into this next century or millennium. The demand for farmed fish is growing 8% a year. So your innovation really plays a vital role, or this kind of innovation, a vital role in reducing the impact on agriculture and the oceans, which is, important to a lot of people and just sustainable and makes sense in the long run. But you have some other interesting facts on your website, like, for example, to feed everyone on the planet by 2050, we need to increase our food production by 70%. That's huge.
Yeah, and that is huge. And let me tell you, you were talking about, how we there's an urgency really to find this alternative to the use of fish meal, because, by 2025, which is basically tomorrow, there's going to be like a 6 million ton gap to fill. And we're talking about, the reality of the fact that in the oceans, that quantity doesn't exist. So we have to find this alternative because the populations are growing, but also they're having, in Africa, just in Africa, like population will double. People are economically becoming more able, so they're going to want to consume more. So really, we have that gap to fill urgently.
So could insect protein potentially also be a food source for humans? Is that something you've thought about?
Yeah, completely. Even when we started out, developing the idea, really, our objective was to have a maximum impact. And today, like you mentioned just at the beginning of this conversation, people are still kind of grossed out by insects, and they're still not familiar with them, especially, in the northern part of the world, because as we know, a lot of cultures consume insects on a daily basis. But the fact is, when we started researching this project and kind of looking into having this impact on, a growing population, so food security, on the environmental impact of growing food, but also, food waste. That's a huge problem that we're having to deal with today. 1/3 of global food production is wasted, and researching it. First of all, of course, the choice of insect was important for us, because it didn't make sense for us to choose an insect that we would have to grow food for it and feed it and take it away from humans. And so that's how we ended up on the black soldier fly, which is an insect that, first of all, is beneficial versus, an invader. It doesn't harm the environment. And then, it's able to consume a very flexible food intake, which means you can give it pretty much anything and it will consume it. Of course, this is a very regulated sector, because at the end of the day, there's humans consuming the final, well, kind of indirectly consuming the final product. So we're only allowed to give a certain type of intake to give to the insects. But basically, we're providing solutions to really, really important societal problems and lowering the carbon footprint of food production.
Have you actually like tasted your product?
Oh, yes, of course.
What does it taste like? I would imagine it tastes not like much. It looks like it would just taste like dirt, or am I right?
No, not at
No?
all. It's quite tasty. It tastes kind of like peanuts. After there's one step there that we have to dry the insects before processing them, and so sometimes we give it a little taste just to make sure they're correctly dried.
Crispy flies, yummy.
No, they're not bad at all. And I've consumed many different types of insects. They're very, I think once you get over kind of the creepy factor of it, of if you see the whole insect, then if you don't think about it, the taste is it's pretty good.
I always think about it like when you get grossed out, you ask yourself, is it really any less gross to eat like a cow's thigh? Not really.
Right? Not really. No,
So,
at all. It's not really.
yeah, I mean, it's all a matter of perspective, I guess. So, and I think if they sold it, the thing they'd have to do is just like make it unrecognizable, both in the way it looks and then also the name. I know they already do that. Sometimes they grow stuff in labs and they don't really, the name doesn't really give you a clue as to where it came from. So that's probably one way that it could be marketed in a,
Yeah.
people-friendly, society-friendly way. But so you mentioned you came up with the idea in Madagascar. You used to work with the UN's Food and Agriculture Organization, which works to defeat hunger around the world. And you mentioned in some of the material that you've written that there's hunger, and a lot of it is a result of climate change, which is something that you're helping with this project. So you co-founded nextProtein with your husband or partner, Mohamed Ghesli.
Yes, my husband. Yes.
Yes, okay. Who happens to be a chemical engineer and also a Grammy-nominated jazz album producer, which is an interesting fact. He's a busy guy. So tell me how you came up with the idea.
Really, at some point, I think in life, you reach a moment where the status quo is just unacceptable. Working the UN, I was really specialized in emergency operations. So I would be sent to countries where natural disasters happened, and seeing just the result of that, and really the direct impact of what climate change is doing to populations that are already so vulnerable, then at some point you just can't not do anything about it. And that's part of the work that I was doing with the UN. But on the other side, on the flip side, or on the other side of the coin, as a woman, as a professional, we always have to kind of choose. Really, it's either your career or your family life, and that's already a challenge in itself. And I decided that that's not going to work for me. And being in the field a lot, it wasn't really compatible with the fact that I was married. So Mohammed and I kind of decided together that we would really have to find a project that we would do together that would allow us, to work together. And to meet our professional ambitions, but also, allow us to start a family and do, the normal life things. From that, a combination of both those things, really kind of pushed us in a direction of doing something like that would have a global impact. And then it just so happened that when I was in Madagascar, the Food and Agriculture Organization, which, as you mentioned, I worked with, released a report on the beneficial use of insects in food and feed. And it was kind of a message, I don't know, sent from heaven. It was kind of, it just kind of hit us, and it really, kind of pushed us in that direction. And the more we read about it, the more we searched about it. First, we found out that it had never been done, and so there was nothing to base ourselves on. That's the first thing. But then we really understood the true potential of this kind of business. And so, that obviously it didn't stop us. The fact that we didn't know anything about insects. We just worked hard. We continued to work hard. And, today we may be considered one of the top 5 players in the world and experts in the field. So I think what I'm trying to say, I mean, I always try to kind of convey this message that sometimes, there's the fear of the unknown. First of all, leaving a job in the UN, like who does that? That's the one thing. And then, just throwing yourself in something that you're not sure of. But I think when you truly do your homework and work hard, you can, get somewhere. And again, we're still at the beginning. There's so much that we still have to learn, whether it be us as nextProtein, but also, just the industry in general. But there's one thing that's for sure is that this is the right path and this is the way to go.
I love that you say it was like a message from heaven, but the fact that other people, saw the same message and didn't really receive it, and you were just the right people to kind of take that message and do something that's actually, perfect for you guys and perfect for this time in our history. So this wasn't back in 2015, and you just recently raised over $11 million to scale the company up. So what is your plan? How do you intend to scale the company? And can you tell me a little bit also about how your farm works and describe it to me?
Okay. So yes, we did. We just finally raised our Series A round, which, by the way, ended up happening during the Corona, lockdown, which was a very high stress moment for us. But we're very happy that we had the continued support of our investors. So in the industry in general, in industries in general, we call it year zero. Year zero is pretty much like in an industry, the year where players are going to position themselves in terms of capacity and technological advancement, and really start developing the business and becoming profitable. So that's going to be 2021. I think it should have probably been 2020, but with everything that's going on, everything kind of shifted. But 2021 is really going to be an important year for the sector. And, with this fundraising, we're really looking to scale up because, as I mentioned before, we're trying to be players in the commodities market. And someone that talks about commodities talks about large quantities. For that, there needs to be a lot of investment. It means you have to grow your production site. Today to give you a bit of an overview of our production site, we're today on a 3,000 square meter production site with a team of 20 people. But in the next, 5 years, we're looking to open up a second production site. We're actually already starting working on the second production site with an objective to produce 100,000 tons per year by 2025. And, that's like 10% of the protein market. So really with this new round, we're just looking into reinforcing our team. And when you talk about a new sector, of course, you have to talk about the investment that you make in R&D, which is research and development. We're not joking around, we're feeding animals, so we have to be respectful of that, of the animal's health and of nature. But also at the end consumer is going to be a human. So it's very strict and regulated, and we have to be safe. That's very important. That's what we're going to do. We're going to grow the team. We're going to build a second factory and, scale up our production.
And what has the process been like for you as a founder of a startup?
What can I say?
Meaning, what I mean is, it's been 5 years.
Yeah.
Is this when was the moment when you knew that it was going to take off and that this was going to be an idea that was going to work?
Honestly, I have to say, it was really at the beginning. When you have an idea, it's really important to surround yourself by the right people who have the right energy and the right, that encourage you in your vision. There's going to be a lot of naysayers and haters and people who are going to think you're crazy, but then you just need that one person. And for us, I think, from day one, when we were still in my parents' garage with like an IKEA tent and like a plastic bucket and my mom's kitchen waste and a couple of flies, we had the visit of a business angel whose name is Cyril Chaalala, who happens to be French-Tunisian, and he came to visit us. And this guy, he's a big deal. He's one of the largest business angels in France. He's a really big deal. So first of all, the fact that he took the time to come meet with us, because that's already huge in itself. And then he came to visit what it is that we do. That's a second thing that's huge. And when you have somebody like that, that's so respected, and that really is successful in what he does, believe in you, it's really a huge, huge motor. And so I think that's one of the things that, really from the beginning, that kind of encouraged us in continuing. And then, being an entrepreneur is very hard. Being a married couple entrepreneur is very hard. And doing something that's never been done is extremely hard. But at the end of the day, if you have your clear vision of what it is that you want to do, and for us, it's really just disrupting the way things are done, because it's unacceptable the way things are done. And we can't leave this planet toward the future generations in this state. And so, on the down days, really, I know it sounds kind of naive or euphoric, or what, it can sound artificial, but really, no, that's really what it is that drives us every day. The fact that we know this is the right path, we know this is the way to contribute in a positive manner to the planet, and that we just do not accept the way things are.
So we know this is a growing market, obviously, and it's in its nascent phase. Insect protein and insect-based food and fertilizer for the industry. So if someone wanted to pivot their farm production, for instance, would you say this is like a good business for people to get into now from your perspective? You're based in Europe, but you see all around the world what's happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it is a good business to get into, because it takes time to achieve the different milestones. Raising insects in a lab, and then in 300 square meters, and then 3,000 square meters, and 10,000 square meters, it's a completely different thing. So it takes time to learn the biology of the insect. It takes time to really understand how to feed it in an optimal manner, how to keep the insects healthy. It's a lot of hard work. But by 2025, we're going to need more players to contribute, because again, today, whether it be us, but other players in the industry, no one is really able to produce the required quantities because it takes time. So, the more players we have that are, really, it's important for them to be very productive, but also very regulated, because again, the safety is very important. And, it's important to have in an industry not to have people who are not respecting the rules, because then it could, tarnish the reputation of the sector. So if, there's associations, there's scientific papers that one can read, there's joint ventures that can be done. But, it's very important that we grow, because that's really a way for us to all survive and be productive and contribute to the well-being of the planet.
Yeah. And from a business perspective, if you're talking about a commodities market, it's going to be a massive industry, and it's great that, as you said, it contributes to the future of the planet and humans. I just want to backpedal just a little bit. Can you explain how you raise the flies? Like, what are they eating? Are you keeping them like in a jar, in a big cage? I mean, I'm just trying to imagine here what it looks like.
Yeah. So basically the flies, at a stage where they're a fly, they don't eat. All they do is consume water, so that we give them something to hydrate, and they reproduce. That's all that they do. Then, of course, they're in cages, they're in a separate area, because we have to make sure they're, protected and healthy. And also because, they require a lot of parameters in place. They require special lighting, temperature, humidity, all of that. We can even, sometimes we play music for them. It's very, it's very important that they're doing well. And then From that area, we collect the eggs. Every day we harvest eggs, which is, something that's completely different from other traditional sources of protein because, if you compare it to soya bean meals, for example, a farmer is going to maybe harvest once or twice a year if, the weather permits, because maybe that year the weather was bad. But us, we can harvest every single day. So we do that. And then, like in a poultry farm, we take the eggs and we take them into what we call the incubator, which is the nursery. We take care of those eggs. We wait till they hatch. And then once they reach a certain stage, we move them into what we call the fattening area, which is where we actually feed them. And I was talking before about contributing to food waste problems. What we give them is actually fruits and vegetables, which for today is the only input that we can give them that's authorized by the EU. But things that would otherwise end up in landfills. So in another part of the production site, that's where we receive the fruits and vegetables that are wasted. So unsold fruits and vegetables, ones that didn't look that nice, or how we waste food a lot. And so we get those. We prepare a special kind of recipe that we optimized, again, because we're really dependent on seasonal fruits and vegetables. So every season it changes. So we have to find the perfect recipe to feed the insects so that they grow in a healthy and optimal manner. And then once those larvae reach a certain stage that we deem appropriate, 95% of them continue on to the processing area, which is where the first step is the separation between the larva and the frass. I was telling you about the fertilizer, and that's the fertilizer. The frass is the fertilizer.
Fly poop.
Yes, yes, that's it. I mean, it's fly poop mixed with, some residue of what they ate as well. And then 5% are reintroduced into the cages to repopulate the colony. So those 90% that we take, we separate them, and then we have to dry them, of course. And they go through the pressing machine, which is where we press them, and we, on one side, we get the oil, and on the other side, we get the fertilizer.
Fascinating, really fascinating. Do you get the fruits and vegetables for free, or do you have to pay for those? I'm just wondering.
Well, we cover logistics for them because, at the end of the day, what we're doing, because, when we decided to implement in Tunisia, but also to open up this production site, strategically, it was very important for us to be in an agricultural area because we have access to the agriculturers, the farmers, basically. So, farmers, for example, when they produce whatever it is that they produce, a big amount of their production is wasted. It's unsold, it's excess production. And what they do with it is usually they end up putting it on their land, and then it decomposes, and then they mix it with the land. And that's really bad because, first of all, decomposing matter, attracts a lot of pests and flies and insects and that you don't want on your land. But also, it has a carbon footprint that's not positive, and then it kind of degrades the quality of the land. So really, first of all, we get it from them, and we're really kind of doing them a favor because otherwise for them it's a cost to get rid of it. And then in Tunisia, I'm sure this exists in other parts of the world, a lot of excess production is conserved in fridges. So there's companies that have fridges and they have them there for different types of uses, and we get it from them. We buy it from them, and we also help them get rid of it. So it was very important for us to be near those because, again, it didn't make sense for us to be bringing some waste from other parts of the world, or then it would have to travel around the world, and that makes no sense.
Definitely, definitely. I love that you're like cooking meals for the flies and playing music for them. That's so cute, by the way. So what's a fly's favorite produce?
I mean, there's no favorite produce. They'll eat pretty much anything, and that's the advantage of this insect, is that really it likes everything.
So this black soldier fly, is that the same fly that like I see in my kitchen sometimes? Is that the typical house fly that we see?
No. It's a different type of fly. That's, like you said, it's the house fly. And this is the black soldier fly. It's a slightly bigger. It's not attracted by, it's not a fly that's going to come and sit on your shoulder or on your plate or anything. It's not attracted by anything. Like I said, it doesn't eat at the fly state. It only drinks. So and it's much bigger and heavier, so it doesn't fly around. It's not as annoying as the housefly.
Okay, good to know. So this is a bit of a weird existential question, but you know how people say that they love all creatures and they wouldn't even kill a fly? Do you ever have any qualms about killing all these flies?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question that comes up quite often. It's important to understand that we are animal feed producers. We're an industry. We're very, regulated. We have to have a lot of authorizations to do what it is that we do. And there are manuals for this kind of thing. There's rules and regulations that you have to apply on how it is that you kill the insects, for example. In addition to that, there's not much scientific literature on the black soldier flies, biology or whatever, but, we do a lot of research on it. And, it doesn't have a nervous system that's very developed. So it's kind of, like you said, it's an existential question. I mean, at the end of the day, if we're going to be eating fish and chicken, then, it's kind of the same thing.
So are you planning on expanding to other insects in the future, or are these like the golden egg?
I mean, this is the golden egg for sure. But we're definitely looking into different types of insects. Right now we're really focused on the black soldier fly because just becoming experts in that in itself is already a challenge and an achievement when we get there. But we're definitely looking into other insects. But it's not our priority right now.
Okay, well, this conversation gives a whole new meaning to "there's a fly in my food" sentence. I'm sure you've heard that one before, right?
For sure.
I wonder if that happens at your house when you're like at the facility and having lunch. Like, do they escape sometimes?
No, I mean, maybe you could find one on my shirt or something, but really it wouldn't even be attracted to my plate.
Okay, good to know. So thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been really fascinating, and best of luck with everything.
Thank you so much, Nadia. Thank you for having me.
That's it. Thanks for listening to the podcast. If you enjoyed it, be sure to hit that subscribe button and follow us on social media. And check out TMR's beautiful merchandise on our website, themensroom.show. We've teamed up with some of the most talented Lebanese designers to bring you some useful and stylish accessories. Check it out and see you next time.